We didn't plan to match like this, but this is my sweater that I got for Christmas. It has my two favorite things, ghosts and books. Can't go wrong with it.
Mine's just a hoodie.
We're very olive today.
Olive. I've got colorful pants on though.
I got no pants on.
She's wearing shorts.
What is today? It is Valentine's Day. I didn't tell her the topic of this video yet because I wanted her to be surprised. We're going to tell some Valentine's Day horror stories that I found on Reddit.
Reddit's a good place for just the most random things ever.
Yeah, I was scouring Reddit this morning. This was like a video I had thought of because I didn't know if we were going to be able to film by Valentine's Day, so I was like, I have the thought in my head, if it happens, it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't matter because it's on a Friday and I post on Saturdays. So Valentine's Day horror stories. We have 4 horror stories. It's kind of creepy, kind of funny. I don't know. I just found them on Reddit and thought they were entertaining. And I wanted to tell them because we've never really done a Valentine's Day video before. But I just wanted to try it this year and see if it did any good. This one is called The Dead Girl's Valentine. And these are all by like the Redditor like No Sleep. I think it's like a group where you can post your creepy stories. So I think they're all just like anonymous. I don't really know Reddit that well, so don't come at me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I don't Reddit.
Usually if I'm on Reddit, it's because I Googled a question and Reddit has more specific answers for me.
My family has a tradition that I've always liked. After dinner on Christmas Eve, we head out to my dad's backyard fire pit. There's booze for the grown-ups, s'mores for the kids, and for some weird reason, ghost stories. Not really the most festive activity, I guess, but something about sitting around a fire always seemed to trigger them. We did this last year, and I was having a great time. That is, until my cousin Ben decided to tell one. Ben's a science teacher at a local elementary school. He started telling us about another teacher that died a few years before Ben joined the faculty. The kids were convinced that Miss K was benevolently haunting the place. They'd invented all kinds of typical kid mythology about her ghost, crediting her when they got lucky, requesting her assistance when they had trouble, leaving notes for her on the board in her old classroom. Just before Valentine's Day, all the kids at Ben's school decorated mailboxes in art class. Just shoeboxes, really, with a slot cut out to shove valentines and candy through. These were opened at the yearly party in the cafeteria, and the kids took them home with them afterwards. Pretty cute, until the first year after Miss K died, when the faculty doing post-party cleanup found an extra unopened mailbox. Its only decoration was the word Jack written across the front. And after figuring out that it didn't belong to any of the students, the teachers opened it themselves. It was stuffed to the brim. No candy, but way more valentines than usual. Normally, kids only gave valentines to others in their grades, but this box had over 100 in it. They were the same little kid valentines as the regular boxes, movie characters, Disney princesses, etc. The youngest children had simply filled in Jack on the recipient line and put Miss K as the sender, which was enough to creep the staff right the fuck out. But several of the older children had also included some brief messages. Miss K loves you forever was by far the most common. The faculty tried to reassure each other that the children had just added a little soap opera drama to their developing legend. A second round of grief counseling was ordered, along with mandatory class discussions about how ghosts weren't real. But the next year, there was another box, and there'd been one every year since. My name's Jack, so of course, my family teased me during Ben's story. My little sister didn't, though. She chewed her lip looking thoughtful, and when Ben finished, she asked what the teacher's real name had been. Ben's answer froze my blood. You can tell where this is going, right? In life, Miss K had been Mia Karasevich, a former friend of mine from years ago. We'd been practically inseparable. That is, until she revealed herself to be a manipulative psycho bitch with all the tenderness of a rabid honey badger. She left my heart in shreds, and I hadn't spoken to or seen her since. I'd moved away shortly after the bullshit with Mia, only coming back for Christmas and the occasional Thanksgiving, and somehow I'd managed to completely miss the news that she died, and became the patron saint of first graders, apparently. What the actual fuck? I hadn't said a word since Ben started his story, but my siblings and parents remembered Mia well, and the fire pit buzzed with their hushed speculation and excited theories. Forget salt in an old wound. This was salt with a lemon garnish and piranha chaser. I knew better than to try and drag my family off a subject they had their teeth sunk into. I muttered excuses and headed inside, grabbing my iPad and heading to the front porch for some quiet, a smoke, and a consultation with Dr. Google. Mia's obituary came up right away, and the photograph made my heart lurch. In her prim and proper teaching outfit, Mia looked more like Snow White than ever, all doe eyes and deceptively sweet smile. She'd looked at me like that the day she told me about that guy too, wide-eyed as a toddler, with its hand in the cookie jar, like she had no idea what I was pissed off about. Those were the kind of misty, watercolored memories I was chewing on when Ben found me. All those Valentines are in a box in the teacher's lounge, he said, helping himself to a cigarette out of my pack. All of them, from every year. I could get you the box if you wanted to see them. Aren't you a science teacher? Why are you on board with this ghost crap? I yanked the pack back towards me with a little too much force. It's not me, dude. For one thing, that lady was a tramp. There could be a dozen Jacks. Ben recoiled from the venom in my tone, but I continued, bitterness rising. I knew it wasn't fair to take it out on Ben, but I couldn't seem to stop myself. Not to mention that Jack is the most fake, least imaginative name those kids could have possibly picked. It's the ultimate kid story name, isn't it? Jack Frost, Jack Horner, Jack and Jill, Jack Be Nimble, Jack and the Beanstalk. Ben sat quietly as I ranted on, his face blinking red and green from the garnish display across the street. I finally paused long enough for him to get a word in, edgewise, and he asked how much longer I'd be in town. When I told him my flight left the day after Christmas, he suggested that we stop by the school on Christmas evening. He had a key, and I could look through the box of Valentines. I started in on a list of things I'd rather do that included root canals and colonoscopies, and that time he did cut me off. Look, I know you think it's bullshit, and if you're sure it isn't you, I believe you, Ben said. But would you do it as a personal favor to me? I already sent out a mass text to the staff, and they're really excited about this. I'll be a hero next semester, and there's this insanely hot secretary in the office.
Oh, God.
That's how Christmas evening, when I should have been lounging in my sweatpants watching my nephews bicker over Legos, I found myself dashing through the snow in Ben's junker-old Corolla. Empty schools are creepy as hell. Without the crowd of bodies and backpacks, the metal lockers and tile amplify every footstep into a resounding echo. And in the half-lit shadows, even the holiday decorations seem sinister. I screamed like a girl when we rounded a corner and I collided with a papier-mâché Santa Claus. I'm sure somewhere some third graders were proud as hell of their creation. But damn, the uncanny valley didn't even cut it. His bulging eyes bore tiny, furious pupils, and his mouth stretched in a grin of pure insanity. The horrible thing was made even worse by blood-red strobing lights, which I quickly realized were the fake flickering bulbs of an equally mutated menorah. Sorry, should have warned you, Ben chuckled. I guess it's too late to ask Santa for new pants, huh? Let's just fucking get this over with, I growled. Like I said, the acoustics of the place were all distorted, and I whirled at the auditory illusion of small footsteps streaking past us. Probably a bird at a window or something, but I was counting the seconds until we got out of there. Ben ducked into the teacher's lounge, returning a few moments later with a large cardboard box and leading me down the hallway. He pushed open a classroom door and hit the switch. I'd thought having proper lights on would help, but somehow the harsh fluorescence made everything seem more sinister. There were posters about fractions, a banner reading "Math is functional," and desks cluttered in a circle. A whiteboard listed the homework as, "Have a 100% wonderful holiday. See you next year." Ah, math teacher humor. Beneath the assignment, way down at the bottom of the board, someone had scrawled, "Merry Christmas, Miss K," in small childish letters. This used to be her classroom, I asked, but I was pretty sure I knew the answer before Ben nodded. He handed me the box of Valentines, then said he'd be down the hall getting some grading done. I nearly asked him not to leave me.
You left him alone?
But after his crack about pants from Santa, there was no way I was giving him more ammunition. Instead, I headed for the teacher's desk, setting the box down and taking a deep breath. The first Valentine I pulled from the box was a character from one of those freaky kids shows. Fuzzy and striped in shades of green, with impossibly long arms. Even though I'd been told exactly what to expect, it still sent a chill down my spine to see my name scrawled next to that thing. After a few minutes, I got more efficient, learning which cartoon characters went with each age group. The ones with Elmo, Dora, that green thing, and his freaky friends went in the not bothering to read these pile. I picked up the stack of older kid Valentines that were left, flipping through them like playing cards, scanning the brief messages. My eyes narrowed as I read, leaning closer and closer. And I got that feeling, you know, the being watched feeling. I looked up and called Ben's name, but he wasn't there. I heard a mouse-like squeak, but when I looked over, all I saw was the same old whiteboard with its math pun holiday homework and the small Merry Christmas Jack beneath. I returned my attention to the Valentine in my hand. Kermit the Frog this time. Nice to see some appreciation for the classics. Then I froze. Hadn't that board said Merry Christmas, Miss K before? I set Kermit aside, moving towards the whiteboard, trying my best to explain away the alarm spreading up my spine. My eyes had still been adjusting to the harsh, bright light when I'd looked the first time. Both things ended with a K, and the kids did usually leave messages for me. No, damn it, not me. Their made-up fairy tale fictional Jack. I bent without thinking, picking up the red expo marker that had fallen on the floor. The word Jack had been written in red, and there were those dirty smudges all around it, the kind you get when you erase something on a whiteboard with your finger. My heart sped up. I was probably just spooked, but it really looked like Jack had been written in smoother, more adult handwriting. As I reached out to touch it, the overhead lights flickered and died. It's embarrassing to remember, but I freaked the fuck out, stumbling backwards until I hit one of the desks and sat down hard on top of it. I was so panicked. I imagined all kinds of stupid things. I struggled to adjust to an inverted world. The room had been hideously bright before, the windows dark, but now, the snow-filtered moonlight provided the only illumination in a room consumed by deep shadows. My eyes played tricks on me, producing an after-image of a darkened, moving feminine silhouette. My other senses heightened and distorted, picking up the faint scent of a live tree somewhere in the building, and trying to convince me it was Mia's old clover perfume. I shivered against an imaginary chill, the hairs on the back of my neck prickling as they lied about a presence behind me. And then, the point at which I knew I'd managed to totally spook myself out, I heard a soft voice whisper my name. That is the really fucked up part. I mean, it's so fucked up that I almost didn't include it. It instantly turned me on. I never actually hooked up with Mia. Never even kissed her. I'd come damned close once, though. She'd sounded just like that when she whispered my name that night, full of longing and almost like she was saying something holy. Almost like Jack was another word for amen. I'd never forgotten it, believe me, I'd tried to forget, but I heard that soft whisper against my neck in 1,000 dreams. All those details came crashing back, sending a heated shudder through me that had nothing to do with the temperature in the room. I could feel her, beside me, touching me. And although I knew it was merely the onslaught of memory, I could have sworn I felt fingers softly stroking my cheek. Despite the dark, I closed my eyes, and tears welled beneath my eyelids. I hated her. I hated her so fucking much. And yet, part of me had always missed her. Missed her deep down in my bones. Missed her like a part of me that had been ripped away and never replaced. Against my will, against every sane part of my brain, I found myself leaning into that phantom caress. Hey, Jack, you okay in there? I blinked at the break in my reverie. Ben stood in the doorway, using the screen of his phone as a flashlight. The light hit me in the face, and I winced away. A breaker must have tripped or something, he said. I didn't even realize this section had gone dark until I came to check on you. At that moment, half-hard and tear-stained, I was damned grateful for the darkness. Ben said he'd go check the electrical box, and a minute or two later, the light snapped back on. The whiteboard flared to painful brightness before me, and I reflexively checked the corner, which still read, "Merry Christmas, Jack." Then I saw the homework assignment. The second line, "See you next year," had been underlined 3 times in a different color marker. I'm not sure how long I sat there, staring pale-faced at that board. I knew that had not been underlined before.
This one does not have a title, so I'm just gonna read it. 9 years ago, I was dating a guy who informed me that he had 3 traffic citations that he never paid due to financial trouble, so they had gone into warrant status. At the time, I worked in the legal field, so to be a nice person, I went to court, spoke to the judge, and got them taken out of warrant status and pled down to parking citations and paid the $15 fees for each of them. I saved this guy a total of well over $2,000 and several points off his driving record in a matter of minutes. Some may say I shouldn't have, and looking back, I tend to agree, but I'm just the kind of person that will always help anyone when I can. The following week was Valentine's Day. We had plans for him to come over to my house for a nice home-cooked meal. I spent all day getting dolled up, hair, nails, makeup, a nice new dress, lingerie, the works. I'd just gotten the food on the stove and the candles lit when he called and said that he wouldn't be over. Confused, I asked why. Then he proceeded to break up with me and tell me that he only used me for my legal contacts to get his warrants taken care of. It completely broke my heart. I got the last laugh, though, because the following week I found out he had another ticket the day after Valentine's. Good luck getting out of that one there, big dog.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. Parking citations and you couldn't get them taken care of by yourself, so you sought out a woman who knew about legalities?
This one is called "My Town Believed in a Valentine's Day Monster." I've been single my entire life. I really don't mind it. It's just how I've always been. And yet I still buy Valentine's candy and a card every year. That simple thing saves my life. I moved to a small town right before starting high school. It was difficult trying to make new friends and adjusting to an entirely new place at the same time. By the time February rolled around, I was finally feeling as if I'd gotten into the groove of things. I had only made a handful of friends, and to my shock, the first time I was ever asked out on a date was a week before Valentine's Day. I felt awkward going out with a girl who I'd never spoken with before, so I turned her down. She got angry, claiming she had other options and was just being nice. That might be the case, but her extreme reaction confused me. When I was able to, I asked my friend Travis about it. "Oh yeah, you die if you're single on Valentine's Day. Get your heart ripped out and everything. So, find a girlfriend for the day," he explained, and I scoffed at the idea. "Come on, you don't expect me to believe that, do you?" I asked, thinking he was just pulling a joke on the new kid. He acted as if he was just giving me some facts. He was looking at me as if I was crazy for not knowing about getting a date or dying. I told him he was crazy, but he just shook his head. It happens every year. Someone gets their heart ripped out. It might not be in this town, but it's nearby. And it's always someone single. I guess you can risk it, but why? It's just one day, he said, trying to defend his point. This was before everyone had a cell phone in their pocket, so I couldn't look up deaths of people missing their hearts right then. I made a note to research it later, so I could call him out on his urban legend. I crossed my arms, still not buying what he was saying. "That's stupid." "Are you saying what? Someone knows you're single and kills you?" I pressed. "A person doesn't do it. Some sort of monster does. No one has lived after seeing it, but people said they heard drums and then found someone without their heart." Travis was again looking at me as if I should know all this. "A Valentine's Day monster? Really? Well, Christmas has Santa, and there is an Easter bunny, so why can't Valentine's Day have something?" For the next 10 minutes, I roasted his idea and belief in the Valentine's Day monster. At least he could take it all as a joke, even if he did believe the murders were real. He wasn't positive a monster was doing it, but couldn't offer up any other reason behind the deaths. And he wasn't risking it. He already had a date lined up with a girl he didn't even like. I still thought the entire idea was dumb. The rest of the school did not share my outlook. As the days slowly got closer and closer to the fated day, the students got paired up with each other. Some done out of safety, others using the monster as an excuse to finally ask out their crush. I received a few pity offers, but I refused all of them as an act of rebellion against this stupid small town's tradition. I just watched as everyone started dating in fear of death. The stores sold out of candy and cards pretty quick. Normally, everywhere would be flooded with red and pink products. The shelves were barren a few days before the 14th. Now, I refused to accept any offers, and I didn't plan on asking someone out either. The school offered a program where you could buy sweetheart candies to be delivered to class for a small fee. I didn't mind getting my new friends one each, all while making up silly names to put on the card of who they would receive it from. It was the only thing related to the whole day I gave into, aside from buying a box of chocolates for myself. The chocolates were just a normal box of assorted types from the grocery store I'd gotten with some money made from doing chores. When I bought them, the cashier slapped a heart-shaped sticker on the box without my permission. A small one for someone to write who the box was meant for. With how crazy this town was over the holiday, I didn't blame her. By that time, I'd been so overexposed to anything Valentine related, just seeing the sticker put me off eating the chocolates. I shoved them in my backpack to forget about them until after the 14th was over. I really wish I had taken the entire thing a bit more seriously. It wasn't until the night before Valentine's Day that I finally looked up the murders, finding them to be true. Dread started to form in my stomach as I scrolled through the library computer after school while waiting for my father to pick me up. I didn't find all the mysterious deaths, but enough to make me worried. 3 people were found with their hearts missing. The police said that from the state of their bodies, they were killed on Valentine's Day, even though their bodies weren't found right away. An entire town was warning me about this, and yet I still sat in shock after finding out it was true. My father finally got me from school, but told me I needed to walk home the next day. I sat in the car, silently debating on what to do. He just chalked up my distressed state as normal teenage behavior. I didn't sleep that night. I tried thinking of names of students that might not have a date, all while knowing it was useless. When the clock turned midnight and it was officially the 14th, I nearly had a panic attack, convinced the monster would swoop in to take my heart. The only way I got through the night without a mental breakdown was to shift my train of thought back to what it was before looking up the murders. A Valentine's Day monster was stupid. It wasn't real. Some heartless store manager saw the murders and made up a story to sell more products through fear. That was it. It had to be it. I remained awake all night. In the morning, my mother noticed how I looked and offered to let me stay home. I refused, secretly hoping I could find a date if I went to school. The place was abuzz with new couples and gift exchanges. As I walked down the hallway, a few students looked at me with pity in their eyes. Most knew my single stance and how I would be the monster's top choice, if it was real. No one went near me that day if they could help it. My few new friends awkwardly tried to find reasons to rush off if I tried talking to them. All of them having temporary new girlfriends gave them a good enough reason to be left out. My candy heart prank wasn't funny. Some thought it was, but I couldn't find the humor in anything that day. Instead, I spent it looking over my shoulder, expecting to hear drums at any second. The final bell rang, and Travis was brave enough to walk over to me for a chat. I think he thought this was going to be our last conversation. The idea got him motivated enough to walk over, but not to find the words. "Do you, want to come over? I'm going out today, but maybe we can hang out beforehand. There is a really good show and..." He trailed off feeling awkward. "It's fine, I'll just chill at home. My parents are going out and won't be home until after dinner, so I have the entire place to myself. That never happens. They finally think I'm old enough to be trusted to be left alone," I explained, determined to still not believe in this nonsense, even though I was terrified. Travis nodded, looking pale. He wasn't brave enough to press me on hanging out. After all, He was certain I was gonna die that night. He didn't want to be around to see it. "I'll talk to you tomorrow," I said, and gave him a shaky wave. He gave one back and started to hurry over to his new girlfriend. When you're a teenager, everything is a big deal. As I walked away from the school towards home, I felt like I was walking towards my own death. The sky was overcast. It made me feel even more gloomy. I kept mocking myself for my mood as I walked along the neighborhoods that had become familiar to me over the past few months. Finding a small rock, I started to kick it as I walked, trying to take my mind off the fear in my chest. A car started to drive along behind me with such loud music I could hear it thumping through the air. I watched it cruise by, a bit annoyed over the sound. If you're gonna blast music, at least play something good and not something that just thuds. As the car kept going down the street, the music went with it, but a hint of the thudding remained. I stopped, confused on why I could still hear the sound if the car was so far. When it finally turned out of sight, I realized the car wasn't the source of all of the noise. My heart started to beat so fast and hard it matched the thudding rhythm that I could swear was getting closer and closer. I didn't look behind me, or even get angry at myself for getting scared. I just ran down the street. I should have run up to one of the houses asking for help. I was so frightened, nothing rational came to my mind. I ran like crazy, all while that beating followed. I wished this was a prank, but didn't stop running to find out. My mind was unable to work as my lungs burned from the mad dash. For a moment, I thought I was losing whatever was chasing me. I stumbled, nearly falling over a crooked sidewalk square in front of my house. I couldn't tell how close the thumping sound was over my own heart. Sweat poured down my face and I felt faint. I slammed into my front door, banging on it before I remembered my parents were out. I nearly screamed in frustration. The door was locked and my keys were buried under my books inside my backpack. That thudding sound was all I heard. It was so close it rumbled in my chest. My hand shook as I fumbled to get the zipper open. I was scared to death and couldn't keep my eyes open. Squeezing them shut, I felt around in my bag for my key. My hand brushed against it when a puff of wind came across my face. I smelled something sweet, and then the wind came again. To my horror, my mind clued into the fact it wasn't the wind, but something breathing on my face. It was too late. Even if I got my key, I couldn't unlock the door before whatever brought the heart-thumping sound took my heart too. I refused to open my eyes to see the monster I now knew to be real. I love the sound of your heart. It's a shame it's alone. Let me add it to the others. The voice that spoke wasn't some prank. It was twisted and beyond anything a human could make. My mind was racing. I felt a sharp tip of a claw poke my chest, leaving a small cut through my shirt. A cruel laugh came as I whimpered in fear. With my hand still in my backpack, I felt something that was not my books or my house key. A crazy idea came to mind. It was either that or death. So I grabbed a hold of the only thing I could think of. Yanking the box of chocolates from my bag, I held it out to the monster I still refused to see. My voice strained and shaking. I asked it a question I prayed would save my life. Will you be my Valentine this year?" My heart nearly beat out of my chest. Opening my eyes a crack, I could see the box in my hand, but not the creature that brought along countless heartbeats that mixed in with my own. I should have died. Instead of clawing out my heart, the twisted hand with razor-sharp nails reached out and took the box. I forced my eyes shut, my entire body shaking. Something brushed my face, causing me to tense up so much it hurt. That clawed finger brushed some hair from my face with another cruel laugh. "What a cute child you are. I'll accept this gift this year, but someday I'll be back to claim your heart." I bit down on my tongue, trying not to scream at that horrible voice. With one final laugh that rattled my bones, the thudding stopped. It took me forever before I gathered up the courage to open my eyes. Nothing was on the front step. I was alone. If it wasn't for the rip in my shirt, I would have thought the whole thing came about due to stress and lack of sleep. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I mean, who would believe me? I went to school for the first half of the day on the 15th. I had barely slept for 2 days and needed to take the rest of the day off. But I didn't want my friends to think I died. All of them looked shocked that I lived. I just said I got lucky. The school moved on. The short-lived relationships caused by that day fizzled out. As time crept along, I started to dread knowing Valentine's Day was coming up again. I bought more candy, roses, and a card, expecting a visit from a monster. I should have just gone along and dated someone, but somehow the idea of it was more stressful than dealing with a monster. I anticipated and feared Valentine's Day, only to have nothing happen. Nothing happened besides the fact that the gifts I addressed to the creature go missing overnight. As the years carried on, I kept buying different gifts with the same result. As I've gotten older, I've heard those terrible heartbeats faintly on Valentine's Day. Each year the sound gets louder. I think this year is finally going to be when that monster shows itself. Again, just asking someone out may save my life. But I think if the monster does show up, I'll ask it the question yet again. But this time, I will keep my eyes open.
The only thing I can think is he said he was addressing them to the monster. What did you write? Dear Valentine monster. Okay, this one's just called Valentine Horror Story. Before sharing my story, I have a little confession to make. I'm a bit of a ladies' man, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, we know what you mean. You're a
That's why my girlfriend left me. She caught me cheating. We had a fight, but we broke up pretty okay, I think. I mean, we still talk, we're still buddies. We're just not a couple anymore. ... smiley face. Who is this man? So I had no idea how I got to be alone 3 days before Valentine's. This made me a little sad as all my friends were already hooked up and had plans for the night. I was alone but not desperate. I took it as an opportunity. I got my best clothes. I made sure I looked the best I could and went to a famous restaurant downtown. I was a predator. That's not a good thing to call yourself, I'm just saying. I was a predator and was looking for someone to spend this holiday with. I was cool. I arrived at the scene. There were both men and women, all single, all good looking, but I have standards. 2 women tried to make a move on me, but I rejected them. And then I saw her. She was beautiful beyond words. She was sitting alone at a table. Nobody even came close to her. I thought everyone was intimidated by her looks. I sat next to her and introduced myself. We talked, we had a drink. I asked her to come to my place. She agreed. We left, holding our hands. She was sweet. She said the right words. People looked a bit strange at me, but I brushed it off. I can see where this is going. I drove home, we talked some more, and I must end the story here, for although a womanizer, a bastard am not. You understand what happened. I felt amazing. The next night I had a nightmare. I ignored it. The woman said her name is Sarah, and we decided to begin a relationship. Things started to go missing, started to get misplaced. Was Sarah a thief? Nah, I don't think so. I became increasingly fascinated with her. But strange things started to happen. The TV would turn on and off. I spent another night with Sarah and I had nightmares. But the next morning she was gone. I asked the concierge, yeah, I'm a wealthy guy, what can I say? I asked the concierge if he saw her, but he denied. Nobody came or left my building. Maybe she left early before the concierge could arrive. I brushed it off. What really set some alarm bells was the housekeeper's question. Are you seeing someone? She was a nice old lady who really cared for me. What do you mean? I have a girlfriend. Her name is Sarah. The lady replied she didn't see her. Where was she? This gave me chills. I went to the restaurant. I had a friend who worked there as a waiter. I asked him about the night that I went there, and he said it was a little weird the way that I left. Like I was leaving all alone and stuff. Alone? What the hell do you mean I left alone? I got to my apartment complex and I saw the cops and the ambulance. The concierge died of a heart attack. Something frightened him to death. Sarah paid me a visit that night. When she heard about the concierge, she laughed. I was horrified. My heart was pumping like crazy. Who was Sarah? What was Sarah? I found a small pocket Bible and I prayed. I prayed like hell in that huge bathroom. I prayed like hell in that huge bathroom. I said, Lord, show me the truth about this Sarah. And that night we kissed. Wait a minute.
Hold up.
You were freaked out and you're like, well, let's make out, that'll fix it. I don't know. And that night we kissed, but I also had a vision. Sarah turned into a monster or a ghost, or I was scared as hell. I tried to run, but something slammed the door in my face. Sarah made a knife float into her hands and she slashed at me. I dodged. I tried hitting her, but my fist went through her like thin air. Then Sarah pushed me down the stairs. I can't remember what happened next. When I woke up, I was sitting with the knife in my hands and a few cops were pointing their guns at me. I was told at the precinct that I tried to kill the housekeeper. I was thrown in jail and Sarah came into my cell and told me she can set me free, said that I owe her. I called the guard and I said all the right things. Like I wasn't even speaking, Sarah was speaking through me. The guardian let me go. I convinced them I would pay for my release at a later date. At home, Sarah told me I have to drive to the restaurant where I met her and just kill everyone there, a revenge for her murder 50-some years ago. A slaughter that would ensure enough negative energy for a dark portal. She was just planting thoughts inside my head. Despite not knowing what Sarah was, I felt strangely in love with her. Sarah had a way with words. I called my ex-girlfriend and she laughed at me, asked how I get along with Sarah. This was all her revenge. She wished me a happy Valentines. Sarah wanted me to turn into a Valentine's slaughter. The restaurant would be full of people, full of lovers. Sarah and I both knew that. Sarah made me sleep, and when I woke up, it was midday and I was in a scrapyard. I was drawn to a certain car. It was old, like the Prohibition era old. I found in its trunk a Tommy gun and a few boxes of ammo. I saw a ghost, a mobster, but he soon faded. Sarah told me she chased him off. The mobster tried to warn me. It was time. Sarah told me to drive. We were to reach the target area soon, but no, I won't do that. I drove like crazy. Sarah kissed me and told me we'd be together forever. Admittedly, I was seduced.
What is up with these people being seduced by ghosts? I don't get it.
Sarah is so scary and she was killing people. So anyway, we kissed and then I had a nightmare. For a few moments, the thought of my deeds weren't so bad. After all, did I know these people? But I fought these feelings with all my might. No, I won't kill for love. I will find a real woman, not that creature or ghost or whatever Sarah was. Sarah tried to possess me again. We fought over the steering wheel. We were getting close to the restaurant. Sarah planted more thoughts inside of me. I looked at her and was fascinated by her again. Quit looking at her then. If I kill them all, I could be happy with her forever. She will make me happy. She is not like other women. I walked, hypnotized. I took the Tommy gun. The restaurant was full. Couples of all ages. I took the vantage point and loaded my weapon. But no. I prayed and turned right back and walked to my car. Sarah made me stumble upon a rock. The weapon just glided on the ground next to my hands. I got on my feet. Sarah kissed me. I took the weapon and approached the restaurant. I was never so in love, and nobody loved me so much as Sarah. I struggled to throw the Tommy gun. I fled to the car. I entered it. So did Sarah. I saw her on the back seat. She looked scary as hell. I feel like I'm reading a ChatGPT Valentine's story. And they don't know what they're talking. She looks scary as hell, like wounded or twisted. Avenge my death or you will never know peace. I will destroy you, she said. I drove full speed to an approaching car. She made me turn the vehicle around. I chose to accelerate. I slammed into the restaurant's wooden fence. I was hurt. I lost consciousness. I woke up in a hospital. Next to me, I saw a priest. He had some health problems. I told him about what happened. He agreed to help. The next day, we went to my house. Sarah put up a ferocious fight by making all the furniture move or all the books just sit upside down in that library. She appeared to me and we kissed again. She made me try to get the priest to leave. I had a choice. I fought my feelings. These feelings were not real. She manipulated me. I continued the ceremony, and in the end, we banished Sarah forever. The whole experience changed me. I got my stuff together and became more serious. I found myself a nice woman shortly after, and I settled down. We got married, we spent wonderful moments together and are really in love with each other. I'm happy with my wife and I will never ever cheat on her. Other women no longer interest me. It's a fine and good life. Only that sometimes, at night, Sarah visits me in my dreams. She tells me we can still be together. I have to carry on her Valentine's Day murderous plot. She's beautiful beyond words. She told me she loves me. Will I ever truly escape her poisonous charms, or will she one day manage to break my will?
Do you think that's true?
I have no
Or do you think he's just on drugs?
I think he took too many NyQuil.
Now this last one is brought to you by ChatGPT. I said, can you make me a short Valentine's Day horror story? Just a paragraph or so. Emma smiled as she opened the heart-shaped box left on her doorstep, expecting chocolates from her secret admirer. Instead, inside lay a single, still beating heart. A note, written in smeared red ink, read, I gave you mine. Now where's yours?
Gasp.
A cold breath tickled her neck, and she turned. Too late. That was so dramatic for what? Happy Valentine's Day. Let us know in the comments if you have any Valentine's Day horror stories. Probably not ones as creepy as Sarah.
Yeah, maybe if you are a little more, intelligent, that'd be great.
I'd recommend you a therapist at that point. We'll do hearts for Valentine's Day.
Happy St. Valentine's Day.
St. Valentine's.
Is he a saint?
I
don't know.
don't know.